We had a nun, Sister Brendan, who would tell us stories, and this story is probably, I'd say, one of the most famous Irish stories, and it's known as one of the three sorrows of storytelling. This is the story of the Children of Lir, and it does seem like the last couple of stories have had the sad endings, but if we have time we'll do one more and it will have a happy ending. But I'll tell you the story of the Children of Lir. In the far-off days, when the gods lived in Ireland, Bove the Red was their king. And he had two foster daughters, and Lir, father of the sea god, sought one of them in marriage. The marriage was happy, and Lir's wife bore him 4 children. A daughter named Fionnuala, that means maid of the fair shoulder, a son, Aid, and twin boys, Fiachra and Con. But with the twins' birth, their sweet mother died, and great was Lir's grief. So after a while, Lir asked for the second foster daughter, Aoife, as his wife, so that the children might have a mother again. Now Aoife was very beautiful, and at first she loved her stepchildren. But as the years went by, and she watched them grow in beauty and strength, she began to look at them with a jealous eye. She had no child of her own, and she felt that her husband loved the children more than he loved her. And soon, Aoife began to hate the children and to long to get rid of them. So one day she called them to her and said she was going to take them on a journey to visit their grandfather, Bove the Red. And with shouts of joy, the children leapt into the chariot, and away galloped the horses in the bright sunshine. But as they approached a wild, lonely place where lay Lake Derrybara, Aoife stopped the chariot, took the driver to one side and commanded him to kill the children. And though she offered him untold riches, he wouldn't do so wicked a deed, nor would any of the servants do her bidding. So, pretending then that she'd just been testing their loyalty, she left the drivers with the chariot and took the children down to the edge of the lake. "Come," she said, "the water's warm, and you're hot with the journey. Bathe in the shallows for a while." Well, the 3 boys took off their clothes and jumped into the water with a splash and a shout, but Fionnuala drew back, for she didn't trust her stepmother. But then, seeing her brothers enjoying themselves, she went into the water with them. And then Aoife took a magic wand from beneath her dark cloak, and crying out an incantation in loud tones, she changed the children into 4 white swans. But Aoife had forgotten one thing. Although she could take away their human shape, she couldn't take away their human soul or their human voice. So now Fionnuala swam to the edge of the reedy lake and said, "Give us back our human shape, stepmother. Our father will die of grief if he loses his children." But Aoife's heart was so full of jealousy, she wouldn't listen. In a loud voice, she chanted the children's terrible doom. "For 300 years, you shall float on the waters of Lake Derrybara. For 300 years on the Sea of Moyle. For 300 years on Eris by the Isle of Glora. When a woman from the south marries a man from the north, then, only then, will your enchantment end." The 4 swans huddled together in terror and begged her to set them free from such a fate. But Aoife's heart was too full of envy, and she left them there and went back to the chariot, telling the drivers that the children had been drowned. Now, as well as the power of speech, the children still had the power to sing. And now they floated on the waters of the lake in the evening light, and they began to sing softly, so that their father Lir, who was riding out looking for his children, heard that sad singing and came close to listen. Great was his sorrow when Fionnuala told him what had happened. "Give us back our human shape," she said. "I want to run again," said Con, "and feel the grass under my feet. Release us quickly from the enchantment, father." "Alas," said Lir, I have no magic strong enough. Grieve not for us then, said Fionnuala, but come every day and talk to us, and we will sing to you till you forget your grief. But frantic with sorrow and anger, Lir rode on to the palace of Bove the Red and demanded that his wife Aoife be put to death. But an even more terrible fate awaited her, for Bove changed her into a demon of the air and condemned her to fly forever at the heart of the tempest. And there she flies to this day, her wickedness clothed in a demon's shape. But the swans sang on so sweetly that for 300 years the land of Ireland was at peace. And men and women spoke softly to each other because of the singing of the Children of Lir. But at last, those 300 years came to an end, and one day the swans had to bid farewell to their father, and they rose up into the air and flew off to the Sea of Moyle. Now they had no friends there, and the air was full of wild winds and shrieking seagulls. Forbidden by their enchantment to land, they were forced to float on the water at day and to rest in the clefts of the cliffs at night. And sometimes the storms drove them apart, and long hours passed before they could find each other again. But when things were at their worst, Fionnuala would gather her brothers to her, Con at her right, Fiachra at her left, and aid against her breast, and shelter them with her plumage. And at last, even those 300 years came to an end, and once again the swans flew up into the air and on to the wild Isle of Glora. Now on the way there they passed over their old home, the Hill of the White Field, but nothing could they see there but green mounds, wind bushes, and nettles. For unknown to them, the old gods had been defeated and were now hidden in the fairy hills, and the Children of Lir could no longer see them. And sorrowfully they went on to the Isle of Glora. Now there they made one friend, Everic the farmer, and to him they told their story. And he it was who told it to others, and so to me. It came to pass on a day of autumn sunshine, when the trees were aflame with red and gold leaves, the strange and dreadful sound of a bell startled them from their sorrow. And to them this music, so different from the fairy sounds they knew, had an ugly, terrifying sound. It came from a tiny reed hut on the shore, at the doorway of which stood a man with a gentle face. And the swans flew down, because they felt compelled to draw near him. "Welcome, Children of Lir," he said, "for by your sweet singing I know you well." "Well, if you know who we are, give us back our human shape with your magic," they asked. "I have no magic," he said. "I can only tell you of one, greater than myself, who will bring you to peace at last." Day after day, the swans visited the hermit and listened as he told them of the new God, till their hearts were eased. They forgot their sorrow and found peace. But the last part of their long and weary enchantment was still to come. It so happened that a princess from Munster, a woman from the south, married a chieftain from the north. And hearing of the wonderful singing swans, she demanded her husband bring them to her as a wedding gift. The chieftain went to the hermit and asked for the swans. The hermit refused. The chieftain offered him gold and jewels to build a fine church. But still, the hermit refused. "I do not sell souls for money," he said. "You will not mock these poor children for your selfish pleasure." Filled with anger, the chieftain seized the swans and dragged them back to the palace, where the princess sat on her throne. "Sing," she commanded. And then her face grew pale with horror, for right in front of her eyes, the feathers fell from the swans, and there stood a feeble old woman and 3 feeble old men, so old No one could tell how old they might be. Well, the hermit came quickly to bless the children before they died. And then Fionnuala spoke to him faintly. Lay us in one grave, I pray you. Con at my right, Fiacre at my left, and aid against my breast. So have we rested so many times in pain and sorrow. So will we rest forever.
I know.
Thus was the death of the children of Lir, and the end of their long, sorrowful journey. They're gone, but their story is not forgotten. For do I not tell it to you again today?